Welcome to the Grow Your Money podcast, where we're on a mission to change how we talk about money. Our fireside chats are the heart of our show, bringing the energy and excitement of in-person events straight to your ears. We aim to connect you with inspiring voices and stories that matter, sharing relatable experiences and insights that will transform your financial life. Everyone deserves access to practical financial knowledge, so we're making money conversations relatable by inviting guests from all walks of life to share their real-life experiences with money. But this isn't your typical money show. We look at the emotional, psychological, and cultural factors that shape our relationship with money. So hit subscribe and join us for another episode of the Grow Your Money podcast.
Hello, Emmanuel. I'm so excited to be here with you. So nice to meet you.
Lovely to meet you, Tina. Thank you for having me.
Yes, absolutely. We seem to be kindred spirits living on different parts of the country. So this should be an interesting conversation.
No, definitely. I'm looking forward to it.
Yes. So one of the things we're doing for this week is trying to showcase excellence, I suppose. And excellence comes in many forms. In your case, I just love the fact that it's around financial inclusion, education, and just making communities better. So, without further ado, I would really love to just hear a bit about you. Who's Emmanuel? What's your financial journey been? I'm quite big on people's financial journeys because there's always something we can learn. And how did you get into it?
Yeah, so who's Emmanuel? Emmanuel, I'm a financial advisor, have been for over 16 years now. I'm a husband to my wonderful wife, Miriam. I've got four children. And yeah, I'm just a man on a mission to make financial advice, financial education, financial literacy accessible to people who maybe are forgotten here in the UK. Working in the banks, I've worked in some of the top banks in the country. I've worked both privately and within the banking sector, and I found that financial advice kind of is only available if you have 50,000, 100,000. And I tell myself, coming from a council estate and a quite humble beginnings, how would someone like myself or someone like my parents be able to get access to financial advice today? And so my job and my mission is to help everyday normal working class people get access to financial advice so that they can live the lives they deserve and make better financial decisions.
Brilliant mission. It's amazing. And so, does that link into the Eman Effect?
Yes, so the Eman Effect is my financial education company, and basically the way the name came about, I started doing videos about 7-8 years ago on social media, and due to my videos, people used to message me and be like, I was in the shop, I was gonna buy this, then I heard your voice in my head tell me to put it down. That's the Eman Effect, and I had about 10 different people message me, that's the Eman Effect, that's the Eman Effect, like, because they were making different decisions when it came to their money and spending. And so I just renamed the company the Eman Effect, and it's been like that ever since.
How amazing. And with four children, I suppose planning has to be like doubly so because I've got two myself, and I just find, especially as the ages change, it's harder and harder to stick to a budget. It's harder and harder to decide to do stuff a certain way.
Yeah, with four children, planning is so important.
Yeah.
I'm lucky my wife, she takes the most of the brunt. I'll be honest and say that, and I thank God for her, and she, she does cakes. So because she does that, she's able to be flexible around her time and be able to pick the kids up and activities and so forth. But yeah, everything is planning. When you've got four kids, you can't just get up and go. You've got to work out everything that you're doing, transport, costs, everything like that. And you know what I mean? So, and they're different ages at different stages. So they require different levels of attention and different types of attention. So, that's really important, but also they require different levels of money, so again, we have to plan our spending and plan our money, mainly around our kids. I was speaking to someone the other day and they were like, oh, Eman, you don't really, like, you don't buy Rolexes and, have flashy cars and stuff like that. And I'm like, I don't, but one of my kids happens to end up going into private school. My other kids, they do after school activities and so forth. I take them on family holidays. That's how I spend my money. So you might not see me spend my money on lavish, things that, really, but I'm spending it, do you know what I mean? On
Yeah.
things that are really important to me.
Absolutely. And that's very interesting because everyone seems to think, I've actually had this conversation on a podcast before. People seem to think that what they think is amazing or great for how you should spend money is what everyone should do. But actually, your cool could just be going on a drive with your kids, and that should be fine. It doesn't
Yes.
just have to be Rolexes to show that you're wealthy or affluent.
Yes, exactly. And they appreciate it, when I speak to my kids, and have the conversation, I see the children that they are. And it's always when you're out in public. For me, I don't like to judge anyone else's kids, but I know that, the time that I'm spending with them means that when they want to have their meltdowns, when they have their, we have a relationship. So there's a
Yeah.
level of they will listen to me because I've put the time in to do that. And I think, so I'm not saying anyone that can't, because it can be difficult, especially with, working and hours and so forth. But for me, I know that it was really important to spend that time with my kids in the early ages, to really give them this is what we are about, and this is what's really important, so that as they grow up, they emulate that and so forth. So I always tell everyone, I want to be the biggest influencer to my kids. I don't want to be an influencer to the world and have no influence on my kids. So I want to be the number one influencer to my children.
Absolutely. You want them to have the Eman Effect directly.
Exactly. Live and direct.
Yeah, yeah. So tell me a bit about Telly. You've been on Telly, you've been doing this for over 15 years, in
Yeah.
banking and advice. How has that changed? How did you get into Telly?
Yeah, I guess it started at the beginning. So I grew up on a council estate in Tower Hamlets in East London, to Nigerian parents. And having Nigerian parents and being the oldest child, all the pressure is on your head. You must succeed, you
Yep.
must achieve, you must lead the way. And unfortunately, somewhere I did not read the memo at all. I didn't do well at school. All I did was play sports. All I did was have fun. I remember doing a parents' evening, and my Nigerian dad, came for my parents' evening, and the teacher, she knew what she was doing. She told my dad that Emmanuel is the class entertainment system. Oh my goodness. The trouble that I received for months. My dad would repeat that. You this entertainment system. Is that why I came all the way from Nigeria, so you can be an entertainment system? And I always tell people, the 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 wrong the right skill in the wrong environment will feel like a curse. But
Yep.
the right skill in the right environment will feel like a blessing. And that entertainment system that I used to do in school and get in trouble. Once I've understood financial literacy and so forth, and then added my humor and my energy and that entertainment side of things, that's what led to the television. And so I always tell people, sometimes it's not a case of you need to change yourself. You just need to change your environment. You need to put yourself in an environment where the skills that you have, the natural abilities that you have, the things that you are naturally good at, are appreciated. And in the wrong environment, you will feel like you don't belong. But in the right environment, people will be drawn to you. And so that's how TV came about. I learned financial advice because, my parents, we didn't have much money. My dad's an accountant. He made me go and do finance at university. Being a Nigerian, I didn't have any choice. I had to go to university. There was no stopping, so I had to go to that place. So I went there, and my dad said do finance, so I did accounting and finance. There was no choice. There's no, for some you will understand, for some you will not understand. But when you're Nigerian, you understand that this is for them. It's not for you. It's for them. It's for them to tell their friends and the people back home that, look, my child has gone to university and done XYZ. So I went there, and I'll look back now and I'll probably say I should have done an apprenticeship. If apprenticeships were what they are today, I probably should have done an apprenticeship.
Hmm.
I always tell people, it's really important to know your learning style and put yourself in the best environment. Um, then I would say that, after that, I would then say, going to university, finish that. But I got a job while I was at university as a cashier, working in Marks and Spencers.
Mm.
And I used that experience of working in Marks and Spencers to then, get a job as a cashier in a bank. So I was working part time in a bank whilst I was doing my degree. And then when I finished that I'd done so well that they gave me the position of financial advisor, and I became the youngest financial advisor in Barclays in the country at age 22. And that was an amazing experience, but also very challenging, being young, being from a council estate background, being black. I was the only black person in my team, and I had to go over a lot of challenges, but I overcame them. But then decided that, I really wanted to have a further reach than just helping the few rich clients of the bank get richer. And so that's when I went to social media to teach people on social media. And that's when after that, that was when the television found me, Channel 4 found me. And that's when I got the opportunity to go on Channel 4, called a show called Save Well, Spend Better. And then obviously we had the pandemic in 2020. Then we had the George Floyd situation, which meant that we were talking about money and they wanted to get some black talent. And I was blessed enough to already be out there. And I always tell people, sometimes you got to do the work and then the opportunity will come, rather than waiting for an opportunity, trying to do the work. And so because I was already out doing the work, when the opportunity came, I was ready for it. I was prepared for it. And that's where the TV has started, and it hasn't really stopped since.
Wow, I love that so much. I wanted to say loud it. You have to put in the work, and I think you have to believe in the work enough. You have to believe in it so much and do it excellently, and that's when opportunities definitely find you. You said something there that's quite interesting. You know, you were the only, the youngest in the council estate, only black person on the floor. How do you think that's changed over the past 15 years? Has it changed much, and what's it looking like, and the industry as a whole?
It's definitely changed. Oh my goodness, it's definitely changed. And I think the positive is that, the biggest change has been women. There's a lot more women, which is great. And a lot more women in power. As in, when I say in power, as in senior management positions. And what I think that has done is that by a lot more women coming in, is creating a lot more opportunity for other people. Because I feel like when a certain people have been put down or been held back, when they then get an opportunity, they look for others who are in similar positions to try and help and uplift. And so I feel like a lot of the culture was very manly. It was very much work all the hours, go for drinks afterwards. The language wasn't great. It was a very male dominated environment. And I feel that, financial services has changed, and, is still, there's still elements there, but it has definitely reduced, in regards to language, in regards to tone, in regards to behavior, in regards to, working hours, in regards to, work life balance and flexibility. I think there's been a lot more change, and I think that's been for the better. In regards to, there are a lot more black people in financial services, which is great. Maybe not as many in leadership positions, and that's something that we can only continue to work hard to strive towards, to get more in leadership positions. But I definitely feel that there are more of us within banks and financial companies, and now it's just a case of us working our way up the ladder into more senior positions.
That's great to hear. This progress is being made. We're walking in the right
Yes.
direction, which is a thing. And just to give me a sneak peek into, or the listeners a sneak peek into what financial advice looks like, maybe how it's changed over time, and what your top tip would be around giving guidance when you're doing it.
Yeah, financial advice. I always tell people a good financial advisor, or a role of the financial advisor, and financial advice, is to look at where you are, where you want to be, and your financial advisor should help you build a plan to get from where you are to where you want to be. Okay. And it's so important to understand where you are. Because when I speak to most of my clients, they don't understand really where they are today. If I ask you, how much money you have, if I ask you in regards to your net worth, if I ask you in regards to your assets or liability, it's not something that you're really looking at, because you're more focused on getting paid, going to work, and living today. And so your financial advisor is looking at the future you and saying, what are the things that you need to do today so that the future you can be better? And also to say, answer the question, do you want to work forever? I always ask people, do you want to work forever? And everybody says no. But actually, if you work and spend all the money that you make each month living today, you will have to work forever. And so it's really important that we look at, what do we have to do in regards to what can we change, what can we do today to make sure that we don't have to work forever, and what does that look like for us? I always ask people, what's your number? If I was to tell you you could get X amount each month and you knew you didn't have to work again, what's that number? Because that's what we should be working towards. We should be working towards putting, whether that be through stocks, property, business, wherever it may be, we should be looking at what are the things we need to be doing today to get us towards that number, so we don't have to work and we can enjoy time. Because the world teaches us that money is what's most important. But the reality is what's most important is time. Because you can have all the money in the world, but if your time is done, you can't use any of it. So time is the most important asset. And when you understand that, you look at the world different. And so my number one advice to all my clients is love yourself. Like, actually love yourself. And people will look at me like, well, what has that got to do with money and finance? But if you love and value yourself, you'll understand that the car that you drive, the house that you live in, the clothes that you wear do not define you. And once you understand that, you'll spend your money different. You see, for a lot of us, we get our value from the things that we can buy and purchase. And my job as a financial advisor is to teach you that you're already valuable. And actually, it's about creating the life that you want for yourself, not based on consumerism, because it's never enough. You buy a house today, 6 months later, you go and visit a friend, their house is nicer than yours, now you hate your house. You buy a car today, 6 months later, a new version comes out, now you want a new car. It never stops. So we have to have that self-love and love ourselves, and really then get to the point where we can love ourselves enough to get to a certain level and say, I'm content. I know there's more available, but I'm content in what I have. And that's what I try and help people get to using financial advice.
That's so brilliant. You've reminded me of something that I always say. It's, if you don't know where you're going, if you don't know where you are, you can't know where you're going.
Exactly.
And to decide where you're going, you kind of need to look inside and find out who you are as a person. So if you're going to somewhere and you need a sat nav, you need
Yeah,
to have your starting point, but you also need to have your destination. And
exactly.
so what you're describing is literally that, like, what destination do you want to get to? How do you want to get there? Car, plane, train, crawling, and all those decisions are in the day-to-day with your money. It's
Yeah.
absolutely brilliant.
And what just to add to that is that also by doing that, you having a financial advisor, the difference is, for example, I met a client the other day who was fixated on 100,000 because they had told themselves through watching videos and social media and things around them that if they want to live the life that they want, that they really want, they have to get to 100,000. And they were on 85,000, so only 15K away. But they were unhappy at 85 because they thought they needed 100. And so when I sat down with them and talked about their lifestyle, what they'll do in retirement and what they need, actually, they were fine. 85 was enough for them to get to their goal. But they couldn't appreciate 85 because they told themselves they needed 100. And some of us are living life like that. We are actually, everything we want in life and need, we actually already have. But because we go on social media and we look at other people's lives and what other people have, we now don't appreciate what we have. And so as a financial advisor, again, this is why it's called personal finance. Like, it's personal to you. But too often we have other people's finance. We look at other people are going on this holiday, or other people own this car, or other people have been able to go here or there. And because of that, now we don't appreciate what we have. And so it's really important to understand that it's about your personal goals and your personal dreams and desires, and don't allow the outside world to affect what's personal to you.
Fantastic. So true. And then touching on that, you've talked about, giving financial advice, and that historically, people of color, one, didn't have access to wealth, I suppose, in the beginning to try and
Yes.
give financial advice. How have you seen that changing, and could it be more inclusive? What are you finding? Because historically, we have not built wealth, certainly not in this country, over
Yes.
generations. Are there systems in place now, or what's your guidance for a person of color that's trying to get their 100,000, for example?
I think there are so many different things in this. Number one, yes, the financial system needs to be needs to be more open and understand that, not everybody, although we are in the UK, not everybody has UK mindset or UK culture. And so because people are coming from other cultures. So for example, if I speak to a client who is, I'm from Nigeria, if I speak to a Nigerian client or someone from West Africa or even Africa in general, we'll know about the fact that although you are here making money here, you'll be sending money to relatives or family members back home. You may also be, like myself, you may also be supporting your parents as well as supporting your children. So my journey with money is different from someone who is born here, their parents are here, they're already established, and they only have to worry about themselves and maybe their children. Like, there's an additional responsibility that we have that maybe other people don't have. And so when you now want to go and get a mortgage, for example, they'll look at it and say, well, you give away X amount each month. And so because of that, we're going to reduce how much we're going to lend to you, because you don't actually keep all that money in your savings, you pay it out on a regular basis. And so these are things that we need to know if we want to make the system work, is that if we are going in, we need to understand what are banks looking for, what are they looking for? But they also need to understand us and understand that actually this is part of our culture and something that we do, and we shouldn't be penalized for doing something that comes natural to us within our culture. And so it's about understanding the system and having those conversations, and that's where education comes in. Then it's about trusting one another. I would say that because when we first came, financial systems didn't allow us to use them, we had to trust one another. So there were, especially in the Caribbean community, they use partner. So, in the Nigerian community, it's called Ajo, Susu in Ghanaian. There's loads of different names for it. But it's where a group of people put money in on a monthly basis, and each month one person will get the pot of money. And because they get that lump sum, they can then use that to go and use as a deposit, or go and use to start a business, or go and use to help themselves. And so that there was trust there. And I think as we started to use financial systems, we've less work together and more me mentality, where I want to buy a house and I'm going to go and buy a house and I'm going to kill myself to buy a house. I always tell people, I don't see people celebrate buying properties from the Asian community as much as I do from ours, because it's such a standard. It's so normal that it'll be like saying I brush my teeth every day on social media. People will be like, that's what you're supposed to do. You know what I mean? No one's going to clap for you for that. And so I want us to get to the point where these things become a standard, but there requires a level of education and knowledge to be put in place for that to happen. Also, there's the consumerism side of things that we spoke about earlier. Whereas as a community, when someone keeps telling you that you're poor and you're a minority, what your natural instincts to do is to say, that's not me. So you now start to try and make yourself look different by possessing things that people who are rich and affluent have, to make yourself feel like you can't put me down because my car's better than yours. You can't put me down because my watch is better than yours. But we are doing these things at the cost of not actually being able to get on the property ladder. Do you understand? So, like, I used to have a next door neighbor before in my old house, and they had a really ugly car. I'm talking about, it was a Polo, but it only had LO on the end of it. That's how old the car was. And I remember when I used to walk to the train station, my neighbor should always be so nice. Do you want to lift? I'd be like, no, you know what? I'll just walk. And I'm not a guy that likes to walk, but I didn't trust it. I just thought, you know what? I'd rather walk on my 2 feet than sit in the car. But their house, they've done an extension at the back, they've done an extension at the top, and their house was worth 1 point something million. The clothes they wear were very ordinary. They don't feel the need to have a nice car or really expensive clothes, but they'll spend money on their house, and that house is going to go up in value over time. And so we as a community also need to learn that we don't need to continue to try and compete with one another. You're not my competition. And it's that when we understand that we are a community and we are together and we win together, as opposed to, oh, there can only be one of us, so I need to outdo you, and so forth, we'll start to see much more progress as well.
Very interesting conversation, because you're right. There is something that actually I learned when I was writing a book, which I launched back in April. It's the burden of representation, isn't it? You feel like you're in two areas. You either need to compensate and change the perception.
Yes.
Or you need to prove that you're not the stereotype that they're expecting of you. So you're always making a decision based on, oh my goodness, I don't want to, even when you're something as simple as fighting for your rights.
Yes.
At a checkout point, someone has been rude to you, you decide not to fight back because you're like, I'm going to feed into the stereotype, when actually you are right. So we just have this constant burden of representation. That's a dynamic that we have as people of color, I suppose, as a whole.
Yes.
Interestingly, then, from what you're saying, so the side of the community and us needing to do that and having these barriers is there. What about from the services, the financial service point of view?
Yes.
Do you see an inherent bias and like some, sort of, I don't know what to call it, inbuilt racism in systems? And how do we go about dealing with that sort of thing? Because I can only do so much in trying not to drive the car to show my neighbor who I am.
Exactly.
I still go to the bank and they still say no to give me the mortgage.
Yes. So good. I would say it's education.
Mhm.
So working in financial services, it used to be the bank manager. It used to be, but now it's a computer. It's a computer system. If you show the computer system the right stuff, your mortgage is going to get approved, no matter what race or whatever you are. So I think there's an education element. I think one of the problems is access to information. So if everybody I see in my bank doesn't look like me, or that I don't feel like there's someone they'll understand where I'm coming from. I don't think they'll understand that there's multiple of us that live in the house, but all the bills are in one person's name. And what does that mean in regards to credit scores and all of this? If they don't understand where we're coming from and the complexities of our culture, then it can be difficult for us to get the right answer. So, for example, I've had people go to the bank and the bank say you can only borrow X, Y, Z, or say actually we can't lend to you at all. And then when I've looked at it, I've told them do this and this and this, and then go back in 3 months' time. And actually, in fact, don't go to the bank. Use a broker who has all the banks available to them, and now they've been able to get more than what they expected. So again, it's the access to information. Now the problem is I can only speak to so many people at so many at once, and
Mhm.
so what's really important is that we start to gather and make decisions together. I always tell people if you are in number 10 and 9 other people have bought a property, I promise you'll be the 10th person.
Mhm.
If you are number 10 and 9 other people are telling you how difficult it is to buy a property, you'll be the 10th person to say, oh, it's very difficult to buy a property. So our circles have to change. I'm not saying don't have the friends that you have before, but our circles need to change. And in fact, sometimes you want to help your friend by giving them money, but the way you're really going to help your friend is by changing your situation. Because once you change your situation, your friend can now see, well, if you can do it and we grew up together and we're from the same background, I can do it. And sometimes what happens is we keep giving them that £50 or that £100, and we keep them in the situation that they're in. And actually, what we need to do is give them the knowledge on where they can go and to improve their finances, or and then it goes to what are we watching, what are we consuming? Because yes, social media can be negative, but there are a lot of positives that are available on there. YouTube, Chat GPT. We're running away from AI because it's going to steal our jobs. But until it steals your job, try and get as much information you can from it. And it's like, actually, are we being intentional? Because sometimes, yes, financial services has more to do, and we can put the burden on them. But let's be honest, like that's going to take a long time. I don't know if I worked in financial services a long time. There's a lot of compliance. You try and change one thing, it's going to 100 people need to sign it off before it can get done. And so, actually, sometimes we have to take accountability and say, this is a life skill. This is something I need to know about. Where do I put myself in the circles? Like I said, there's more of us in financial services now. So we now should have somebody in our circle that we should be able to talk to get access to the information. And if you don't have them in your circle, there are people online, there are people on YouTube, on Instagram, on Facebook, TikTok, whatever it may be, online that you can reach out to get this help and support. So I feel like there's less excuses, and we need to now be more proactive, because if we wait for financial services to change, it could take forever.
I want to pick up on something you've said, because I do that a lot when I'm doing workshops around looking at your money, because the way you spend your money describes your behavior. It
Yes.
describes who you are. It's literally your money tells you who you are. In fact, if you're questioning who you are, go and look at the shops you go to, right from the
Yes.
supermarket you go to, the activities you have, the subscriptions you pay for. They will describe you. And I really, for our community, I talk about economic outpatient care. We really have this syndrome where we think that to fix someone else's problem, it's giving them £50. And sometimes that is the solution, but actually, most times, helping them understand how they can avoid getting back into the £50 deficit may be a
Yes.
better solution. Totally. And I'm all for the education piece. I totally agree with that. It's an education piece on both sides, the communities and the financial services. I wonder, though, whether there is something around perceptions, back to the perceptions we're talking about. Um, I mean, speak to me about this, because I feel, and when I'm speaking to financial services, which I do all the time, trying to educate them, I'm saying to them that this is a whole untapped market. People of color,
Yeah.
underrepresented communities are an untapped market that you're wrongly labeling as unable. But
Mm.
you combined financial education, you helped to educate the communities or made sure education was reaching the grassroots, you would open up a whole new industry. You'd open up a whole new raft of people that can take out mortgages, actually, that could have taken out a mortgage 5 years earlier if you had given them the right environment. So I wonder if that's what you find, from the financial institution side, that they have a perception of people of color or inclusion as a whole, because it's not just people of color, it's all sorts of inclusion. They look at it as a loss leader on their cap table, whereas if they looked at it as a potential market, it might change. Do you hold that view, or what's your comment on that?
100%, 100%. And I'm not saying every, like, we have to be careful not to label every, but I would definitely say when we look at things like, for example, Black History Month,
Mhm.
when we look at the budget that is allocated by companies to Black History Month compared to other months or days that are celebrated, it's not equal at all. And a lot of the time when people reach out to me, it's people within the company that are just trying to do something to celebrate it. And they get no support. If the workplace might give them a room that they can use, but in regards to bringing in speakers or bringing in guests there's no budget. Whereas when we have other celebrations, they've got full budget. It's planned a year in advance, and it's the same thing when it comes to investing in Black businesses. When you look at it, a lot of investors feel that Black businesses aren't scalable. They can't scale, especially here in the UK. Because we're only 4 or 5% of the population, and feel like our products and services won't be able to attract non-Black customers enough for them to scale. And so again, these are biases. These are things that people have already told themselves. When you look at, I think if it's a white company, a white male going in for investment on the first round, they easily achieve over 100,000. Easily, first. I think it's something like 250, 300,000 on their first round. And if it's a Black business, it's less than 10,000. And so when we are talking about business, and again, the reason investment is important is the fact that if I am a company, we know that it's something like 80% of businesses fail in the first 2 or 3 years. And a lot of that comes down to scale. If you are trying to do everything within a business, and you don't have money for staff, you don't have money for marketing, you don't have money for promotions, website, and your competitors do, you have less likely a chance to survive in that environment. And so again, if you can't get the investment, and you have to be the customer service person, you have to be the caller, you have to be the CEO, you have to be the mail person, maybe at the beginning, but if you have to do that throughout the whole way, it becomes very difficult for that business to remain profitable and do well. And so there are biases when it comes to business. There are biases when it comes to investment, when it comes to us getting money, and even getting opportunities. But again, I feel like we have come from a mentality where we've been told since we were young that we have to work twice as hard, and we can't expect, and we have to take whatever we're given. And that can change. We have to start looking beyond. And this is why I speak to a lot of businesses and say, look, there is a Black American market that we can target as well. So we don't have to just make products for here in the UK. There are Black people all over the world. So why are we limiting ourselves to only creating businesses and only focusing on the country that we are in? Like the world is getting smaller due to technology. So we need to take advantage of that. And so these are the types of things that we need to look at. But also when we are making businesses, just because there is a Black owner doesn't mean that it can only service Black people. We need to stop that rhetoric or that mentality. That it doesn't that is not the case. A lot of our businesses can service and help people of all backgrounds.
That is so spot on. I was going to say exactly that, actually. I was going to say that just because I'm a Black founder does not mean that I'm serving just Black people or, people of color. That's not the case at all. I was going to touch on something around business investment, actually, because,
Yes,
the other thing we talked about earlier was our credit file is going to look different, especially when
yes,
you're first generation, right? It's going to look
yes.
different. So because of that, when you actually go for an investment round, you look different from the word go. So
Yeah.
if no one is ever open-minded enough to look at your cap table, look at resilience, which is a very big factor, people
Yes.
of color and other factors that can enhance that, investment will not go up, and that narrative does need to change.
Yeah, but I think also we also need to look at how we do it. So, for example, we need to create less sole businesses. We need
Mhm.
to have more joint businesses. Investors typically like companies that have two founders rather than one, two or more founders rather than one, because if one person has to make all the decisions, if they're going down the wrong path, there's no one to correct them.
Mhm.
So they prefer to have two or more people.
Mhm.
Again, if you can then partner, if you're a man with a woman or vice versa, it allows for more diversity and more diversity of thought. Also, create a board. So if you are doing something and you've got this great idea, reach out to people who have the credibility, have the credit score, have the respect, and put them on your board of advisors. Create a board of advisors. Pick 4 or 5 people who have the credibility, have the respect. That when an investor looks and says, "Oh, these are the people that are going to advise you on anything you're going to do," I trust them. I've seen them before, and I trust their track record, and that will give you a better chance of getting investment. A lot of the time, you are going on your own. You have no real experience other than working for somebody else, of doing it on your own, and it becomes very difficult for someone to want to invest in you, because at the end of the day, as an investor, I understand the risk is I could lose all my money, but I'm trying not to do that.
Mhm.
So I need it to look as good as possible. Again, where do you find this out? There are companies like Foundervine. There's the Barclays Black Accelerator. There's a Lloyd's Accelerator. So there are places where you can go as a business, even when you go from idea stage, ideation, before you even bought bought your business name, or you can go and find out, what should I be thinking about, what are the things I should be doing, and get off right. The problem is that we don't seek the information. We just want to go up and get it because it sounds exciting to say, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm a business person. But actually, the reality is that go and sit down in rooms. There are things available to you, and banks and financial services are paying for it, so you get access for free. I was at a Barclays Accelerator just the other day, where companies could come and pitch, and they are bringing on black founders to come and learn how they can be better. This is paid for by Barclays. Lloyds do the same thing, and so forth. So it's not that the information isn't out there or isn't available. It's just a case of we have to go and seek it.
Very interesting. Something that I was very blessed to hear very early on in my journey was, map out your business the way you want it to be 10 years down the line. So if you want to exit, if you're planning to exit, which means that you're planning to sell it on to, I don't know, a big five firm,
Yeah.
plan it that way. If you're planning to continue running it for 20 years, if it's a legacy business for you, plan it that way. Back to the thing we talked about earlier about knowing where you're going so that you can map out your journey. So if you're looking to exit, take on investment, you have to do a whole lot of different things. You should be having different conversations. You should be in different rooms from if it's a charity, for example. And you should be in different rooms still if it's a family business. So you need to know where you're going and where you want to be 10 years from now. So one of the best questions I got asked very early on was, where do you see yourself in 5, 10 years? And I had to sit down and really think about that. And the next question was, are you making decisions that will get you to that 10-year self in the business? And so that's really spot on in that way. Um, Two last things. Or did you want to add on something?
No, I was just going to say, and again, just to add to that, at the beginning, see yourself as a professional business. So
Yeah,
make sure you have contracts. Make sure you're sometimes you're doing too much things on handshake or word of mouth. And then when the business starts to make money, all of a sudden, everyone's saying, I deserve this, I deserve that. Like, even when you're at the beginning, you haven't made any money, act as if this is going to be £1 million, $1 billion company. Like, act like that from the onset, and have the right contracts in place, have the shareholders agreement, make sure you're doing everything properly, so that when the money does come in, no one says, well, I did this, or I paid for that, or I done that, I deserve this. And a lot of that causes tension and arguments, and then people go their separate ways. So it's really important to have the right mindset from the beginning.
absolutely. 100%. And I think That's also key. The rooms you go into, the conversations you're having, the people you're surrounding yourself with. Something came to mind when you were saying, making a point earlier around who we hang around. And my mom normally says, she says, eggs have no business mixing with stones. They just don't have any
Yes.
business mixing with stones. It's just the fact of life. So if you're building a business that you're looking to become a unicorn, you have no business hanging out in a different environment. It's how do you make sure you're enhancing yourself and you're sitting with eggs so that you can grow as an egg and not with the stones that are going to break you, kind of thing.
Sure. No, that makes
Yeah.
sense. That's a great example.
And so, Emmanuel, like, I just have to ask you this: what trends are you seeing in the industry, and what can we, as listeners or people who are trying to get better, try and hang on to? You talked about ChatGPT briefly and AI, but from a financial advice point of view, what trends are you seeing? And particularly, I'd like you to speak to it from the point of inclusion, so that will
Yeah.
support inclusion.
I think technology is a big thing that we have to grasp. I think the jobs are changing, so I think something cultural wise, I think that's really big for us. Okay, I think that's huge for us. I think think we have been told to be a doctor, lawyer, solicitor, accountant. There are set jobs that you are told within our community to become. A lot of those jobs are going to become a lot more automated. A lot of those jobs are going to be done by AI. So we need to be looking more at STEM. We need to be looking at where are the things that we can do. And from a financial point of view, it's a case of is the technology that's coming in, and do you understand how to use it? Because those that understand how to use it will be the most important people. Those who understand how to fix it, how to apply it, how to use it, how to maximize it will be the most important people. So it's really important for you to understand that. I always use myself as an analogy. I worked at Barclays. I was a cashier, became a financial advisor. When I left, nobody cried. Nobody was upset. Before I'd even got out the door, my job was online. They were advertising it. But then I went away. I learned social media, and Barclays had to come back to me to say, Emmanuel, we'd like you to do up to represent us in our social media. And so again, it's one of those things that what are the trends? What are the things that are happening? How do you go out and learn that and become a master in that? So big corporates will need your skills and expertise to keep you employed or keep income coming towards you. So that's really important. I think, financial education, financial literacy, we have a generation that are very much entrepreneurial, very much don't want to be employed, want to have the side hustle. So again, if you can teach people, provide education, encourage that, nurture that, there's and add value to that, there's money that can be made from that. I think big trends in finance is that finance has to continue to change. Financial services has to continue to change. We are seeing that, this younger generation coming in are avoiding working in financial services because of the long hours, because of the hard work, because of starting at the bottom, and the culture and the language, and them seeing it being a more male dominated environment and somewhere that it might not be quite friendly. Financial services are actually struggling to hire. People don't want to work in these types of environments. So we're seeing financial services having to change. And again, that means having new ideas, which means from an inclusion point of view, there will be more opportunity for ethnic minorities, for women, for people who have disabilities to be in leadership positions to help guide and navigate so that companies have a different perspective. For too long, companies have looked from one perspective, and to get the talent that they want to get in order to grow and build, and even to get the customers, because customers are now voting based on the policies of companies. We are choosing our banks, we're choosing our credit cards based on what are you doing for the environment, what are you doing for people like me, what are you doing to help society. So again, financial services has to change. People are not just about making money anymore. You offering the highest interest rate, or you saying that we're going to make you the most amount of money, is not enough for people to put their money with you anymore. People are at a point now where they'd make less in order to do better for society and for the planet and so forth. And so that's something, financial services, that's a big trend that is going to change, and something that I think we can utilize.
Mm-hmm. And it's a good thing. I mean, I say all the time when I'm giving guidance is also use it to your advantage. I mean, this
Yes.
whole thing that AI and that is going to take over our jobs, how you respond to it is up to you and will determine what you do with it. So you can automate more now. I love the
Hmm.
fact that you can open your bank account online personally. You can literally do transactions end to end without having to go into a bank. So try and embrace the trends where you can and make the most of them. Very useful conversation, Emmanuel. We have so much in common. We have the same goals in so many things. So I'm really keen to hear your response to what next for you. And I think I have some news that I've seen, but I'll let you share it. And I'm really excited to hear what the next steps are for you.
Oh, thank you. Yes, we definitely have a lot in common, and I'm sure we'll continue to communicate and conversate and collaborate, hopefully, again in the future. In regards to me, I have my kids' book coming out. Um, I would. It says 9 to 12, but I'd say any child from 8 to 14 can benefit from it. It teaches kids about money and about business, and the premise is we try and make it more gamified and entertaining. And so the child will start off with £1, and then at the end of each chapter they'll learn stuff, and at the end they'll have to make a decision on what they think is the best choice in order to grow that pound. And if they make the right decisions throughout the book, by the end of the book they'll have £1 million. Along the way, they'll learn about tax, inflation, you know, property, stocks, and all of these things that you just can't imagine. Imagine if you had learned them at that young age. What better decisions would you have made by the time you got to 16, 17, 18, 20, and so forth? So I think financial education is really important. So I'm really proud of that book, and it's come out through Puffin, which is a great kids book company. So I'm really proud of that, and that's the big next thing that's coming out.
I'm so happy and so proud of you for doing that. We run something called the Youth Money Camps, which are in exactly the same vein. And I literally sent out a post this morning saying, let's try and teach the children the things we thought we wish we had been taught at the time. So I'm really proud of you for doing that. We're definitely going to be talking about that because we with our youth camps, this next ones are 12 to 18-year olds. So that book is definitely up that path. And as you're saying, it's all about collaboration, making sure that as many children as possible have these resources. Because, and this is a funny anecdote, but for many people of color or underrepresented people, sometimes your child is your pension plan.
Yes,
Someone was
very
saying
true.
that. So if your child is your pension plan, you better make sure they have as much information as they possibly can. And so I'm so proud of you for doing that, Emmanuel, and really looking forward to how we can collaborate and get it out the door and get that done. It's been lovely having you, very lovely. I'm looking forward to more of these. Hopefully going to drag you up to Scotland for the youth camps
That'd be
and
amazing.
have more conversations coming up. Thank you for joining us on the Grow Your Money podcast, and we look forward to more of them.
Thank you so much. I look forward to it too. Speak to you soon.
Speak to you soon.
Thank you for listening to the Grow Your Money podcast. If you're looking to take actionable steps toward achieving your financial goals, visit moneymatix.com. That is money, MATIX.com. And join our free Grow Your Money Challenge. Let's unite in the movement to inspire people to talk about money. Thank you for being a part of our community. We'll see you in the next episode.